Last night, there's a new set of cooling measures that come into play. Now, this is nothing new because this has happened before in 2011, so there's nothing much to worry about. But in today's video, I'll be actually sharing and looking at what is the impact that happens last time in the past in 2011, and moving forward, what are the implications and what you should be doing at when you are looking or buying a new property. So let's get on with it. So this is a news that was article that came out at 11:30 p.m. last night. So the government right now is actually very smart that they always like to release this type of news, especially at around 11 o'clock, where home buyers or people who are buying properties are too late to react. So if you have bought your property and have not exercised yet, this will affect you. But then again, if you have not bought yet, it will not affect you. Or if you have exercised already, it will not impact you at all. So if you are lucky and you exercised yesterday, you are still able to sell after the 3 years period. So this has nothing to do with HDB because HDB has MOP and MOP takes 5 years to sell. So it doesn't affect all. However, it will actually mainly affect flippers or people who are actually treating property as a commodity to buy and sell quickly to make a fast cash. Okay, so this will happen. These are the ones that will affect them, and I'll show you the data. Now, what is the government stand? Over the last 2 to 3 years, you will see that there's actually a very huge increase of numbers or units that has been sold in the open market that has not been completed yet. So what I'm trying as an example is that if I were to buy a under construction property today, and 3 years later, and I want to sell it off this property, and yet this property has not been fully constructed yet, still under construction, is what we call sub-sale. And sub-sale units that basically tells the government that more people are actually buying properties as an investment and not for own stay. And this actually will cause the property price to increase. So what is the new ABSD rate? Now, doesn't mean that you need to hold properties for 4 years then you can sell. You will still be able to sell, just that if you were to wait only 3 years and sell a property, you will need to pay a 4% ABSD. Seller stamp duty. But then again, if you are looking, do take note that I write wrongly here. This is seller stamp duty, not ABSD. Now, if you were to hold for 4 years later, there is no seller stamp duty at all. Now, let's look at the history, okay? Now, what happened is that in 2010, there's already cooling measures that increased from 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And in January 2011, is where the 4 years seller stamp duty came about, okay? And why I highlight 2017 is because this is the time where 2017 is where the removal of the cooling measure. Okay, that's the first one. So there's a few other things I want you to take note of. Is that the second one is the blue color, which is a new sales unit that is sold by developers. Dark gray is the resale unit that is being sold by second-hand market. And the light gray that is the most important is sub-sale unit. And I repeat just now, sub-sale unit is for people, flippers, okay, who buy and sell property before they are even constructed. They do not plan to stay inside. So in 2007 at time, that was before the seller stamp duty kicks in. You can see that, wow, last time people in the past, they like to invest in property, you know, total number of sub-sale unit is like close to 5,000. And then because of during this period of time where the seller stamp duty start to kick in, you'll see that the number of units start to decrease from 3,000 to 2,000. So let's look at 2011. If I were to count 2011 because the rules coming in January 2011, so if I were to count 4 years later, it's 2011, 12, 13, 14. So this is the 4th year mark. You will see that there's a very huge decrease of sub-sale units, people selling in sub-sale unit, because it no longer makes sense to sell in the sub-sale unit if you are to hold on for lower than 3 years. So you'll see that from 3,000 units, it will decrease to less than 1,000 units. Okay. Now that is the first thing that the government want to curb, reduce the number of sub-sale units. The second thing is that the trend that you want to look at is that there is, for every 2 units of new launches that's been sold, 1 unit buy resale unit. So there are more people buying buying new launches as compared to resale. Okay, why not? Because people want new. But when we look in 2017 that time, okay, or 2016 that time, you'll see that the number is very close, like 1:1. Or 1:1.5 for every, you know, this is close to 10,500, this is 14,000, where the numbers are very close as compared to here. What this tells you is that there are more people now looking at resale units as compared to new launches, which is good for you if you plan to buy a new launch unit. So what I want to explain is that if I have to buy a new launch unit right now, okay, if I have to wait 4 years later, definitely I will not be able to sell in the sub-sale unit. I must have the power to hold for a longer period of time. I will definitely be selling in the open market, okay, and I will not be flipping, and there will be more demand. Also, this graph also tells you in 2014 at time, because of all the cooling measures, therefore the people no longer because of all these cooling measure, okay, there is a huge decrease of people buying properties. So I just want to be very clear to you is that once the cooling measure takes into effect, or once there's enough cooling measure to take into effect, people will no longer speculate in property. That is why there's a huge decrease of the property transaction, which means, yes, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, that it may be harder to sell. Let's look at the pricing. I prefer to use this graph for pricing because it's more accurate, okay? And I just basically shrinking down the timeline, okay? So let's look at 2011. January 2011 was time it kicked in. But let's look at the pricing. Now, although 4 years later, the number of transactions has decreased, but the property price still went up. The property price is still remain able to hold. Now, this is a very simple reason, is because if you were to buy a property, definitely you want to take a loan. And if you want to take a loan from the bank, you follow TDSR, Total Debt Servicing Ratio. And Total Debt Servicing Ratio was created, okay, because of the Lehman Brothers crisis in 2008, which ensured that everybody is able to afford to hold on to your property. So if you are able to hold on to your property, there's no reason to sell it at a loss. Why would you want to sell it? And that is the main reason why the price may able to remain at a sustainable pace. Now, the second thing I want you to take note is that did the government reduce the cooling measure in 2015 when the price at the lowest? Even when in 2016, let's assume that the government still want to wait and see and hold on. In 2016, even when the price went up, the government is still monitoring. And in 2017, when the price went up further, okay, that's when they know that they need to remove the cooling measure at that time, because people need to buy properties, okay? Price will still continue to go up. And right now is that, over here is that the price has increased at a very sustainable growth that the government is happy with. That is why they remove these cooling measures. Or the number of people are no longer speculating in the property market. You can see here, this is the sub-sale. These are very small sub-sale unit, and that is what the government is happy with. That's why the government removed the cooling measure. Do also take note, after 2011, okay, there is no more cooling measure. After 2013, there is no more cooling measure. That is why the price decreased, and that is what the government is happy with. There is no change to LTV at all, which means people are still able to take the loan from the bank, you know, and able to afford to finance their property. That is why the price went up. So if you take now that what I want to explain to you is that if you want to buy now in today's 2025 market, let you know that the price will still continue to go up because we do have a shortfall of property. And URA master plan, there is a major change in some key areas that leads to more demand in property. Therefore, we know that property definitely will go up. Over a short period of time, yes, transaction volume may decrease, but then it will still recover going forward. So what are the implications? These are the three things I just want to explain to you. Number one, pricing will still go up. Property market in Singapore is very, very controlled. It's just basically supply and demand. If the white paper says that we need 6.9 million population, we need properties, and there is a shortfall of properties, even if developers are building it, the price will still go up. It's basic economics. Secondly, because of this seller stamp duty, I have to admit, you need to have a stronger holding power or a longer holding period. Okay, you shouldn't be just looking at flipping properties every 3 years, but maybe even a flip, you need to hold on for 4 years instead. Now, what are the strategies for flippers? Okay, so right now, because when the government after 2017 they reduced the cooling measure at time, what people do is that at the baseline at time, properties need 3 to 4 years to build. So if I have to buy on the first day of launch, I'll wait 3 years later, properties will not be constructed finished yet. I'll sell my property. That is called a sub-sale unit. If it finish on the 4th year mark when it's just ready TOP, okay, very nice, I'll just sell it off in the open hand market. But if we were to go back into 2011, what the flippers do strategy is totally different. They will hold on for 3 years, and if the property is ready to TOP that time, they will find a tenant to move in. Okay, so let's go back to our graph again. In 2014, they do not want to sell a property. Okay, why? Because if I am a property owner and my unit just TOP, I am not in a rush to sell my property. Because I have not reached my 4 years yet, I will get a tenant to come in. When the tenant comes in at time, I will have 1 year to sell my property. Okay, and because you got that 1 year mark and you're not forced to sell a property, and yet the renter is able to pay for your mortgage, therefore I am not in a rush. I will slowly take 1 year to sell my property at the price that I want. And that is why from 2015 onwards, the price start to increase. Okay, because why? People are not in a rush to sell your properties. That's the first thing. Okay, so that is that's the strategy of flippers. But more importantly, after talking for maybe 11 minutes, I just want you to take home these two messages. At the end of it, in 2015 moving onwards, because of this seller stamp duty, there are two things I need you to take note of. More importantly, as a strategy, if you plan to invest in Singapore property, because of this seller stamp duty, follow these two instructions, okay, or these two things that I just want to share with you. The first thing is that location matters, more important matters now. Okay, instead of looking at URA transformation in the next 3 years, you should be looking at a longer period where transformation happens in the 4 years to 6 years mark. So if I am able to have a longer foresight and know what is going to happen in the next 5 years, that area changes and becomes more important. So for example, if I know that the MRT station is going to build up in the next 3 years, maybe I will go for something that have a further long side instead, 5 years instead. The second thing is that location matter. Why? Because right now, I'm not just going to buy a property and sell it immediately. I need a tenant to come in, which means location is very important, where there must be strong amenities, very strong tenant pool. These are the two things that I'm looking at. So places like okay, for example, in the past, I would prefer to go for pricing. I want to buy cheap pricing. Pasir Ris, Tampines, okay, where the PSF is very low, like 2,000 PSF, I can get a unit there. But now, because of this, if I am an investor, I'll be looking at a longer period of time. I need a tenant in. I'll look at maybe one north area where there's a lot of tenants coming into the picture. So that is where, and I'm able to rent it out easier instead. So these are the two things I'll look at, and this is the two take-home message that I'd like to give to you. Now, if you like this video and you find it helpful, please give us a thumbs up button and click on the subscribe button. And if you do have any comments to share, or you disagree with me, or you want to find more slides, please feel free to either WhatsApp me or type in the comment section below. That's all I have for you. Thank you so long and see you next week. Bye.